Hey y'all, my name is Adina Barnett Miller, but I'm known to my students as Mrs. B. I've been passionate about West Virginia history for as long as I can remember, but my mom would tell you it all started when I was 3 years old and she bought me a West Virginia counties puzzle at Gino's Pizza. I've taught history in Ripley, West Virginia for over 20 years now, and I'm an adjunct professor who teaches college West Virginia history to high school students. Please join me for West Virginia History with Mrs. B, a field trip across the Mountain State to walk in the footsteps of those who came before us. Hey y'all, it's West Virginia History with Mrs. B, and today we are going to take you on the first of a three-part journey across southern West Virginia to follow in the footsteps of the coal miners in 1921 who marched on Blair Mountain for the right to unionize in the coal fields of West Virginia. To set up the context, coal was first discovered very early on. It's not going to be a major industry in West Virginia until after the Civil War, and so as long as there have been coal miners, there have been coal miners who have wanted the right to unionize, and so that's what we're going to be talking about. And so we're in Marmet, West Virginia. We are at the Miners Memorial in Marmet. If you want to see all of the images and all of the things here at this memorial, we have a separate video about this memorial, but what we're doing here today is basically to set up the context of the mine wars and to use this as our jumping off place to go on the journey. We're actually going to follow the footsteps of the miners as they march across Kanawha County, Boone County, and Logan County on their way to Mingo County. And so what's important to know is that efforts to unionize the southern coal fields had been started as early as 1900. They had not been successful, and there were going to be strikes in Paint Creek and Cabin Creek before World War I, and those were very bloody. So if you look at this road right here where we're at, this is McCorkle Avenue, and it runs to Charleston. But this is, if you just keep going that way, you'll end up in Paint Creek and Cabin Creek, okay? And so basically, these were really bloody fights and battles for the right to unionize in Paint Creek and Cabin Creek. They get stopped during World War I because miners are going to get paid a better wage, because they're going to get, the operators will agree to pay them the wage that is getting paid to everyone because they're using coal for the war effort. By 1919, 1920, these miners have come home, and they have learned so much on the battlefields. They've learned about their rights as human beings, their fundamental rights as Americans, and so they see the right to unionize as part of those fundamental rights that they were born with. And so a lot of things are going to happen in 1919, 1920, 1921 to lead for this push to unionize the southern coal fields, including the Matewan massacre, which happened in May of 1920. There's going to be the Battle of the Tug down in Mingo County in 1921. But what gets the mine wars really kicked off in 1921 is going to be the murder of Sid Hatfield and his deputy Ed Chambers. We have videos about that as well in Matewan, so if you want to learn more about that, you can check those out. Sid and Ed, they're going to be murdered on August 1st, 1921, and that is going to be what precipitates this push to Mingo to go liberate the miners who have been jailed, who are living in tent colonies down in Mingo County, fighting for their right to unionize. So I want to show you this map. This is where we are, and this is where we are headed today. We are going to be following this path the next 3 episodes. So you can see here we're just south of Charleston in the community of Marmet, and we are going to be following this exact path that the miners took to Blair. Blair is where the miners get stopped in Logan County by Logan County Sheriff Don Chafin. Names that you're going to hear me repeat repeatedly throughout the next few days and the next few episodes are going to be Don Chafin. Don Chafin is the anti-union sheriff of Logan County. You're going to hear the name Frank Keeney and Fred Mooney. Those are the leaders of the UMWA District 17, whose headquarters were in Charleston. You're also going to hear me talk about Bill Blizzard, and Bill Blizzard was the miner who led the actual charge to fight to get to Mingo County. So as you can see, we're here in Charleston. Here's Marmet. We are going to be on our journey crossing over Lenz Creek Mountain and going into Boone County here at Racine. We'll be stopping in Racine. We're going to be going to Madison. We're also going to be going through Clothier and then into Sharpless, right here Sharpless, and then to Blair Mountain. So again, we'll have 3 episodes. The Kanawha County episode, a Boone County episode, and then a Logan County episode. So if you want to know more contacts, we have a lot of videos out there. We have videos at the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum. We have videos in Matewan as well, and so this is going to complement all of our other Mine Wars videos. We do want to talk about Marmet itself. This is the gathering place for all of the miners who are going to march on Mingo County. They are going to come by the droves, like thousands of them are going to meet here in the valley for their march south. The reason why that they come here to Marmet is because the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad runs through the town, and so they're going to be able to come on the train or to drive here or to walk here. They're going to wear their red bandanas so they're easily identifiable. Another big reason why we wanted to start at Marmet is because of Mother Jones. And so we're going to go to her statue, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. The book I'm going to be using today repeatedly and through the other episodes is Lon Savage's Thunder in the Mountains. This is one of the first comprehensive histories of the Battle of Blair Mountain to be published, and so I will be pulling writing and stuff from this book throughout the 3 episodes. All right, we are now at the Mother Jones Monument here at the memorial, and so she figures prominently in this story. Mother Jones was a activist and labor organizer, and so there's going to be an infamous moment that happens here at Marmet that has to do with Mother Jones. And so I'm going to read from Lon Savage's Thunder in the Mountains because I think he says it better than I ever could. He says, Lenz Creek springs from the mountain just below the Boone County line and tumbles and falls among the beeches and oaks, dropping 400 feet in its 8-mile run. It gathers strength and widens as it passes 6-mile branch and 4-mile run. A cluster of buildings called Hernshaw, an intermittent line of miners' cabins. By the way, we are going to show you Hernshaw today on our video. As it nears the bottom, it flattens, it hollows, it grows wider, its pools grow deeper. Then suddenly it debouches from the mountains, sluices beneath the railroad track, flows through the bottomland and the town of Marmet, and empties into the Broad Canal. In August 1921, a primitive road, nothing more than 2 ruts, ran down the hollow, squeezed by the creek and mountain, running first on one side, then on the other, often in the creek itself. Though barely passable, it was an arterial road in West Virginia, the passageway from the state capital at Charleston to the wilderness of the state's southwestern coalfields. On August 24th, 1921, a guard of 200 miners with rifles and revolvers stood across the mouth of Lenz Creek, sentinels at the edge of the miners' army, checking all who came and went. Behind them, a line of men stretched all the way to the creek's source, and the mountains on either side were dotted with more, nearly all armed. They moved in groups, companies. Remember, most of these guys had just gotten back from World War I, so they're going to use their training and their knowledge. So they're moving as companies, some called them, in military fashion, shifting restlessly, awaiting word to start the march to avenge Sid Hatfield's death. The word never came, but they started anyway. Shouting and yelling, the men moved, leaderless in increasing numbers, up the creek, groups leapfrogging each other even higher until they reached the headwaters of Lynn's Creek. Then someone, no one knows who, went over the top of the ridge and down into Boone County, and the others fell in behind. They were headed south towards Lingo and Mingo counties, thus the march began. And Logan County Sheriff Chafin announced dramatically, "No, our mob will cross Logan County," and the miners knew they would have to fight before they reached Mingo. The prospect excited them. They sang a song to the tune of John Brown's Body, or as we know, the Battle Hymn of the Republic, "We'll hang Don Chafin to a sour apple tree," and it took bets on who would shoot Chafin first. Along Lynn's Creek, their boasts echoed through the hollow. Going clean through to Mingo and gonna kill Don Chafin on the way. Gotta get our people out of jail. Gonna blow up the Mingo courthouse. Gonna drive out the mine guards. And that's one of the major issues here. The yellow dog contracts, blacklisting, mine guard system. That's the reason they want to unionize, is because they want to have their rights as human beings to be able to make their own destiny instead of having, mine guards monitoring every one of their moves. And they always sang they shot Sid down like a dog, and Sid was shot on August 1st, 1921, and that's what really precipitated this. The march started as a trickle of men going over the mountain, while others arrived in greater numbers at the creek's lower end, and the army kept growing. Men are pouring into Marmet on train, trolley cars, and feet, the town's mayor said. By the way, the town had just been incorporated in 1921. And even while miners poured out the other end and into surrounding mining camps, the drum fire continued. At Boomer on the Canal, two blacks gathered a crowd on the riverbank and told them they had a yellow streak across their face if they didn't join the march. And they passed a hat for money beneath the sycamore tree. At the Mordew Colliery at Whitesville, which is in Boone County, there wasn't a miner, no, not one. Men arrived from the northern part of West Virginia and from other states, and one of them, wearing an army uniform, compared the country to Argonne. Only them hills weren't so steep. In the encampment, Walter Allen, Savoy Holt, U.S. Cantley, and Billy Blizzard registered in truckloads of provisions and handed out rations and guns and answered questions and sent men forward. Ed Reynolds led his company of 300 men, most wearing blue bib overalls and red neckerchiefs, up the creek and over the mountain. Some miners were reluctant to join the march. Chris Petrie, 20 of Ed Wright, was one. Sent to get guns at the company store, he returned empty-handed. Miners cursed him. There was a burst of gunfire, and he fell with 5 bullets in him. Late in the night, someone dumped his riddled body on the front porch of an East Bank funeral home. They said, "Take the scab," and drove off. Before daylight, the undertaker had more business. Miners brought in the body of William Gwynn, shot from ambush on the march, then set mysteriously, and they left. On Wednesday morning, Mother Jones arrived on Lynn's Creek. In the preceding day, she met with Governor Morgan, and on his advice had gone to Mingo, where she visited the prisoners, the miners who were in jail, and talked to them on Sid's death and witnessed martial law, because the whole county in Mingo County had been under martial law and will be for over 15 months straight at one point. When the miners' army began to gather on Lynn's Creek, she hurried back. A crowd gathered near the creek mouth beneath the trees, and Mother Jones spoke. And of course, that's what this is depicting here. She surprised them all by urging moderation. The march would do no good, she said. They couldn't win. Go home, she said. She said she had a telegram from President Harding asking if the march in Mingo be abandoned, and she pretended to read from it. "I request," she quoted the telegram, "that you abandon your purpose and return to your homes, and I assure you that my good offices will be used to forever eliminate the gunman system from the state of West Virginia." It didn't sound like a president. Keeney, Mooney, Blizzard, and Holt were in the audience, and they couldn't believe it, and they asked to see the telegram, and Mother Jones refused. Mooney said it was a lie, and he shouted it from the audience, and Mother Jones yelled at him to go to hell. Keeney, standing in an open car, got the crowd's attention. The old lady had turned against her boys, he said. That telegram was fake, and it was too late to turn back. Pay no attention to Mother Jones. But her words had effect. The men were visibly faltering. Bill Blizzard followed with stronger words. He said, "What in the hell is the matter with you?" he shouted at the men. "Do you want some old woman to take you by the hand and lead you across the hill? Straighten up and be men." The matter wasn't resolved until Keeney and Mooney returned to Charleston, and they contacted the White House by telegram and received assurance that President Harding had sent no telegram to Mother Jones. That old lady indeed had died for reasons she alone could explain, and she never did. She took the reason with her to her grave. And with the discovery of her lie, her argument collapsed and the march went on. And Mother Jones will get on a train and she will leave West Virginia and she will never come back. This is going to be her last time, her last action in West Virginia, where she had been coming for over 20 years to help organize miners and the right to unionize. So we are on State Route 94. And this parallels the route that the miners took in 1921. We are going to take this road to Racine, which Racine is in Boone County. This is a road we know quite well. My brother and sister-in-law live in Racine, and so we have driven this road countless times to go to their house. So we will be passing through a couple communities on our way to Racine. One is the community of Lynn's Creek. It is a old coal town, company town, which you'll see. And then we're also going to take you through Hernshaw, which we showed you on the map. Here's another map so you can see where we're headed. So this is what we call Lynn's Creek, and down there, that is the actual creek running along parallel with the road. In 1921, this was not a paved road. This was literally like just a mud path over to Racine. So we are definitely driving on nicer roads than what the miners experienced. Most of them are going to come over the mountain on foot, because there is a mountain between here and Racine. It's called Lynn's Creek Mountain. At the top of that mountain is the Boone County line, which we will show you. But this is, right off of, we're like literally a mile in, and you can see we're right off of the interstate. But it's in a lot of ways, it's like you're entering a different world from the one right there by the interstate. So there's the houses and the creek's right behind them. The creek through here just winds around, but this is a pretty narrow valley. Holler, what you call this, a holler? Okay, so here are the little company houses. You can see they're right close to each other. They all basically have the same, styling. Some have been, kept up. Others have not been kept up. You get to watch a U-Haul back in. That was not part of our plan for this video. But this is Lynn's Creek itself. And there are more of the company houses coming up here. That's what I think of when I say it's like a different time. See how close all the houses are? They're the same shape. They're right beside one another. Very close. Right here along the road. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from Lon Savage's book. He says, in August of 1921, West Virginia miners began pouring into the Lynn's Creek Valley near Charleston. They came in hundreds and then in thousands. They overflowed the seats, aisles, vestibules, and even engine tenders of incoming trains. Nearly 1,000 miners arrived on a single train at Cabin Creek Junction and formed an armed mob that moved forward like a swarm of angry bees. All-day men walked along mountain roads carrying guns and packs. Others rode in big spoked wheel cars that bumped over rocky roads or through creeks, hub deep in water. In some places, the creek was the road. Some few came on horses and in wagons pulled by mules. All converged on Lynn's Creek, the starting place for their march. Guns bristled everywhere. Men carried revolvers revolvers in their belts, Winchesters in their arms, bandoliers across their chest, old Army Springfields slung over their shoulders, some with bayonets attached. Many wore their Army uniforms, jackets, breeches, and wraparound leggings, and some buckled on their old World War I steel helmets. As the numbers grew, they showed up increasingly in a uniform for the miners' army, blue bib overalls and red neckerchiefs. They were muscular, grizzled men, native of West Virginia Hollows, who had joined the miners' union. Emotional men who spoke their hearts in robust Appalachian dialect. Men like Bill Blizzard. All along Lynn's Creek, they pitched a camp beneath the oak trees and talked about the Baldwin Felts thugs and of martial law, and of miners jailed without charge, and of Sid Hatfield's death. They gunned him down in cold blood, a miner said. They shot him down like a dog. Sid's best friend, Ed Chambers, had also been killed. They killed him in front of their wives, the miners said. For 3 weeks, the story of the brutal slayings had spread through the mining camps and the union halls, and miners flocked to mass meetings. They came from Kelly's Creek, where Savoy had told them they must gather across the river. The time for action had arrived. So, just, hearing that, I think, puts in context who these men were, why they were marching, what they wanted to accomplish, what their goals were, and, the fact that Sid, the one, public official in West Virginia who really had the miners' backs after he was murdered on the steps of the McDowell County Courthouse because he was on his way to be put on trial. It just, these men realized they weren't going to get a fair deal or a square deal. They realized that they weren't going to have the opportunity to unionize, and that their brothers were in jail in Mingo County, and they were being held basically without charges because martial law was in place. So they didn't have to give a reason to put them in jail. They could just throw them in jail for whatever reason they wanted. And so the miners had just had enough. I mean, when you think about awakenings, World War I was a huge awakening for American workers, not just West Virginia workers. And there is going to be labor strife and labor unrest and unrest in general all across this country as World War I ended. And so, this thing does not happen in a vacuum. There are going to be strikes all over the country as World War I ends. And also as this nation deals with a Red Scare, because the Soviet Union, Russia had collapsed and formed a communist regime, and so people were scared. People didn't understand what was happening. People were fearful for the future, and so there's just a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of when it comes to at least the Red Scare, and then there were people who just had awakened to realize their full range of rights as Americans, and they weren't going to sit back and have their rights denied anymore. I mean, you think about the fact that these miners weren't even being paid in American currency. They were being paid with scrip. By the way, we are headed up Lynn's Creek Mountain right now, which, of course, is not in the best shape, especially the Kanawha County side. And the Boone County side has a slip that they are in the process of fixing. But back to talking about the miners, when you realize what your full range of rights are as an American, and you realize that you should not, sit back and let people deny you rights. I mean, that's a very empowering and important moment. So we are now coming up to the top of the mountain. And we are now right to the Boone County line. There's the Boone County line sign. So Now we're going to come over the other edge of the mountain, which has been recently paved and fixed because there was a slide during the winter. You can see there where the road's cracking again. But this is just a narrow valley here where, you know, the road is, and then the creek's down there in the bottom. So as we wrap up this part one of this video, Dave, is there anything that I probably need to throw in here?
Not that I can think of right now.
Me either, but I hope that you are going to tune in for the other episodes. I'm really excited about this. We've been talking about doing this for months now, and we just decided today was the day to go and make this journey. So I'm going to keep the video on till we get to Racine, and then we'll start our episode 2. So thank you so much for joining us for episode 1, and episode 2 is going to look at Boone County in the Miners March, and then episode 3 will be all about Logan County. So thanks for joining us. Thanks y'all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to West Virginia History with Mrs. B on both Facebook and YouTube.